hope you can see my screen. Okay. So if anybody can't access or see my screen, please let me know so that I can resolve the issue. If you can see my screen, that is well and good. So I can continue with my class. Okay. Fine. So today, what we are going to see is called as structures. In C++. Okay, so let's start with hash include IOStream using namespace std in the main. Okay, and you have a return, say returns here. So this is your normal program where you start. Now, usually you will define some variables. For example, int a is equal to 0, initialize value of a 0, some float value b is equal to 0, etc., etc. Okay. Now, if you look at these variables, they are standing it alone, right? Like a can only be an integer, b can only be a float, and a cannot take a float value or b cannot take an integer value as it is. So these are all standalone, okay? And you can directly access in this code. So you can say a is equal to 2, and I can say b is equal to 3.1. This is totally fine. And if you compile this, you see that there won't be any error because you are directly accessing. Okay. Now consider a situation in which you need to define or you need to have some kind of a. So here, if you see, there are no errors. Okay. So consider a situation in which, let's say, you want to have a variable in which you should be able to store integer values. You should be able to store float values. You should be able to store character values. So all those values you should be able to store in a variable. If you declare some variable as int, you can store only integer values. You cannot store the float values. So is it possible to declare a variable which can store any type of value? Okay. So the question is it possible to declare a variable to store any type of value? That is a single variable that can store integer, floating, char, etc., etc. Is it possible? The answer is yes and also no, because you can define a variable which can store all these things, but it itself contains many other variables. That is called as a structure. Okay. So let me show one sample structure. Okay. Let's say I need to have a structure, or I need to store the details of a student. Okay. For example, so details means I need to store a roll number, which will be an integer. I would say first letter of the name. I'm not going to store the name because it's a bit complicated. So this is basically a character. I want to store his or hers average marks, which will be a float. Okay. So I need to store the details of the students and the details include roll number, the first letter of the name, and the average marks. Okay. So I'm not storing the complete name because it should be an array to store the complete names. Currently, we haven't touched the topic of array, so I'm not going to look into array now. Okay. So for that, what you do is you are going to declare a structure. Okay. The structure has the following things. You have a keyword called as struct. This is a keyword which says it's a structure. Just like int means integer, struct means structure. And then inside, after this, you are going to give a tag. or you are going to give a structure tag. For example, in my case, my structure tag is student details. This is just a name. Okay, this is just a name I am giving. Fine. Inside the structure tag, I can declare variables. For example, in this case, I can declare a variable as roll number. That is one variable. I can declare another variable, char first name letter. That is the first letter of the name. And then I can have a float which says average marks. Okay, so this is the declaration of a structure. Okay, declaration of a structure contains struct, which is the keyword. There's a structure tag, which is the name that you give to the structure. And inside this, or you have an opening brace and a closing brace. Inside this, you will declare all the variables that need to be associated with the structure. So in my case, I'm going to store the details of a student whose roll number, first letter of the name, and average marks. So I'm declaring there should be an integer roll number. There should be a letter, which is a character. And there should be average marks. Okay. So once you declare this, now the thing is you have declared everything. So let's try to access these variables. Okay. So let me say, I'm saying roll number is equal to 1. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to access this variable inside the structure from the main function. Let's see what happens when you compile. See, when I compile, it says roll number was not declared in this code. Okay, and the compilation has failed. There's an error. That means you cannot access this variable declared inside the structure from outside the structure directly. Okay, directly is very important. Fine. So how will you access this variable? And what is the advantage of using this structure? Okay, so let's try that. First, we need to create an object of the structure. Okay, how will you create an object of structure? You say struct this name tag, structure tag, which is student details, and then the object name. So I say student1. Okay, this is how you create an object of the structure. You can create any number of objects. For example, I can say student, let me say S1. Okay, ST1, which is student1. I can create another student2, student3, ST3, ST4, and so on. You can create any number of objects. Okay, so I'm just creating only one object. So to access the variables inside the structure, you need to create an object of the structure inside a function or wherever you are going to access the variables. And how will you create the object? Struct the structure tag, which is student details, and the object name. Okay, so st1 is the object name. st1 is the object name. Okay, and student details is called as the structure tag. Fine. And you have the keyword struct. Now I can access the variables inside the structure, the variables declared inside the structure can be accessed using the dot operator and the object. Okay, that means let's say I want to set my roll number to 1. So I can access st1 dot. Then you see that when I type dot, it automatically popped up all the variables inside the structure. I say roll number is equal to 1. Okay. So I have set my roll number of student1, which is st1, as 1. Okay, and if I say cout st1 dot roll number, it will print the roll number. Let me just compile this and just run this. You see the roll number is 1. Okay, this is how you access the structure. Similarly, let's say I can say st1 dot first name of the letter is S. Okay, I can say st1 dot average marks is equal to, remember, average marks is a float, so you will have some value like 45.5. Okay, and you can print all of this. I can say st1 dot first name letter. I can say st1 dot average marks. Okay, and if I just compile this, it will get compiled. And if you just run this, you can see whatever we have copied or whatever we have assigned to roll number, first name of the letter, and the average marks has been printed. Similarly, if you want to get the values, for example, let me say int new roll number. I'm just declaring a variable inside the main function, which is called as new roll number. So I want to get the roll number of st1 inside the variable new roll number. So what I want to do is new roll number is equal to st1 dot roll number. If I do this and if I print new roll number, you can see that I'm just creating a new line. And if I just compile, sorry. You see the new roll number is 1. So whatever is there in the st dot roll number has been assigned to this variable new roll number and it has been printed. Okay, so using the dot operator and the object, you can access the variables inside the structure. Okay, now there is, as I told earlier, you can create any number of objects. For example, struct student details st2. Okay, now st2 and st1 are completely independent. If you assign any variable of the object st1, it will not get assigned to st2. That means st1 is totally independent of st2. For example, if I print cout st2 dot roll number. Okay, let me give the name. Roll number of st2. Okay, and this is roll number of st1. Right, I'm just removing this part. So, right. So it will compile properly, except that I haven't put a semicolon. It will compile properly, but when you see the result, you see that st1 roll number and st2 roll number are totally different. Okay, so let me put a new line. You see, roll number of st1 is 1, roll number of st2 is -1. So whatever you have assigned to st1 roll number has not been assigned to st2 roll number. So that means they are totally independent. If you want to give a roll number to st2, you need to specifically assign it. That is st2 dot roll number is equal to, let's say, 2. Okay. Now if I combine, so let me just put a space so that. See, so roll number of ST1 is 1, roll number of ST2 is 2. So actually, in theory or in practically what is happening is, let me see if I can draw something in my laptop. Since I'm using laptop, there will be some problem, but let me see. Okay, so practically what is happening is as follows. I hope you can see my slide. Okay, in your RAM, assume that this is your RAM. Okay, random access memory. No. Okay, inside this RAM, when you declare this structure or when you create an object of the structure, what it does is it creates a memory location for ST1. So there is one memory location here, which is called as ST1. Okay. And inside this memory location, it is going to create multiple. So this memory location consists of lot of memories. Like it's not a single memory location. If you look at this structure, it has an int, it has a character, and it has a float. So what is happening is you'll create three different memory locations, one for int, one for character, and one for float. Okay, and these two, it will club together to form the structure ST1. Okay, so let me see, shake it. Fine. So this is your roll number location, memory location. This is your first letter memory location, and this is your average marks memory location. Okay, and this whole thing is for the structure ST1. Okay, so this is for ST1 object only. It is not for ST2 or ST1, not for ST3. Okay, so when you create this object, it will create a memory location for ST1, which consists of roll number, first letter, average marks. Now, when you create ST2, the object, it will create another memory location, which is called as ST2 inside RAM, and they are totally independent. So if you write something to this memory location, it will not get, this memory location will not get affected because these two are two different memory locations. Okay. For example, this might be some address 0x004. Okay. This might be some address like this, and this might be some other address, something like 0x008, something like this. Okay. So these two are two different memory locations, ST1 and ST2. And actually, they are a group of memory locations because each roll number, first letter, and average marks will occupy one each memory location. So when you do something to ST1 roll number, or when you type, okay, let my roll number is 1. So the ST1 roll number becomes 1, and ST2 roll number is not altered because they are totally different memory location. Okay, so I can say ST2 roll number is 2. So they are two different things because of which it will not get altered. Okay? So that concept of objects And the independency of objects is important because that's where we are going to start with classes. Okay. Um, there is something called as a union in which they share the memory location. So currently we won't mostly look into union. Union try to avoid using union. Okay. So in this structure, you see that you can declare variables. Now the question is, can you declare a function or call a function from this structure? Okay. Can you declare or define a function or call a function from this structure? That's the question. That means, can you do something like this? Void main or void max. Let's take the function that we declared yesterday. Max int val1 comma int val2. Okay. And if I do cout, let's say I just printing val1. Is it possible to do something like this? Answer is, if you compile this, you can declare it, but you cannot access it. Okay. So ideally, you should not do this. Okay. The answer for this is actually no. For this, so structure is where you can declare. In structure, you should have only variable declarations. Okay. This is called as variable declaration. You cannot do anything else. And you can access the variables using creating an object, using dot operator. You can access the variables, everything. To have, or so what is that you can do so that you can also define function inside this? And that is where the classes will come into picture. So classes is a structure in which you can both declare variables and functions. And it's not that simple, although when you hear it, it is very simple, but the concept behind the classes is much more in depth that we'll see in the coming lectures. Okay, so I hope you have understood how a structure is declared, what is a structure tag, what are the variables inside a structure, what is an object of a structure, how can you access the variables inside the structure, that is using dot operator and the object name, sorry, dot operator object and the variable name, and what's the difference between two different objects. Okay, so the memory location that I have shown here is a very important concept. Okay, even for classes also this will come into picture, where you see that objects of the classes will be in different memory locations, because of which you will not be able to corrupt the data of one object using another. Okay, fine. So I hope you have understood this structure concept. Okay, fine. So before going into classes, I just need to present to you what's the difference between a procedural and an object-oriented program. Okay. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Okay, the presentation. Okay. Okay. Now, so we have talked in our programming sessions about, okay, for loop, while loop, if else conditions, and structures, functions, etc., etc. Okay, so these are actually some kind of a tools in programming, which is used in all type of programming languages, whether it is Python, whether it is PHP, whether it is HTML, whether it is C#, whether it is C++, whether it is Java, whether it is Android, whether it is Perl, whatever. In whatever be the programming language, all the programming language will have the basic concepts of looping, conditional execution, functions or modularity, and the regular sequential executions. Okay. So what is that which makes the different programming languages different? Okay. That's where the object-oriented and the procedure-oriented programming language will come into picture. In a procedure-oriented programming language, let me take a pointer. Okay. In a procedure-oriented programming language, it contains a step-by-step procedure to execute. For example, if I want to add something, let's say I want to add two numbers that is given by the user. So what will I do? I will ask the user, give me first number. I will ask the user, give me second number. Then I will add the number. Then I will return back result to the user. Okay, so there are like 4 steps. So you are actually executing step by step. You are asking the user first step. You are asking the user the second number, second step. You are adding the number, third step. You are giving the result back to the user, fourth step. So it is a step-by-step procedure. So how much big the program is, whether you are designing a program to control the satellite uh, revolving the Earth, or whether you are designing a program to add numbers, whether you are designing a program to control the engine of your car, whatever it is only a step-by-step execution. Like the first step is this, second step is this, third step is this, and so on. Okay, that kind of programming is called as a procedure-oriented programming. So you say the problems get decomposed into small parts, and then to solve each part, one or more functions are used. Okay. For example, let's say you are designing a microcontroller for controlling some car, like for example, the regulating the temperature inside your car. Okay. So in that case, you need to first read the temperature, adjust your rheostat or AC so that you can control the temperature inside. So they are like you have multiple modules where first one module is to read the temperature, second module is to check if the temperature is above your set threshold, third module is to adjust, activate the actuator to decrease the temperature if it is above or increase the temperature if it is below, and then you should do the actual actuating. Okay, so all these things are to be done. So you are decomposing the whole thing into 4 steps. Okay, the main characteristics of procedural programming is it is mostly based on algorithms. Algorithm means okay, this if you do this, you will get this output. If you do this, you will get this output. For an algorithm. So large problems are divided into small functions. So there is something called a global data. I don't know whether you understand at this stage what a global data is. Like usually when you design a software, it's not a single person's design. You might be having a team who will be like some people will be sitting in Bangalore, some people will be sitting in Trivandrum, some people will be sitting in Cochin, or some people will be sitting in California. So all these people will be combining each of their efforts to design a complete software. So when you do that, each of the people will have a program in which each of you might have declare variables in A, in B, etc., etc. And somebody else might need to access your variable. Okay, so in that case, you will provide access to that variable for some other person. It's called as a global data. We'll discuss it once it is very advanced level. Okay, and global data is always a problem. Now, data move openly around the system from function to function. Okay, and then data from you can functions transfer data from one form to another, top-down approach. But the important thing about procedural program or main disadvantage is if you want to change something, even if it is a small change, that's a very difficult one. Since it is a step-by-step programming language, if you want to change one step after, let's say you wrote 1 million lines of code, then you found out there's a problem in one part of the code. Now, if you want to change that part, then you need to tear it down the complete program before you can do the change. Okay, so ചെറിയ change വരുത്തണമെങ്കിൽ complete program അടിച്ചു പണിയണം. It's a very difficult. And security of data is another issue. So what we go for is something called as an object-oriented consent. So in this concept, you are emphasizing on data rather than procedure. You are saying like, okay, you go with step by step, that is fine. But I will make sure that whatever data is handled in this program, so data is some data in the variable. Whatever data is handled in the program is secure. Okay, and I give importance to that. And programs are divided into small parts called as object. We'll see what an object is in detail. There's a data structure, and data and relevant functions stay in tied classes that is secured. And you see, you can communicate between objects. We see in structure you have st1, st2, and they are totally independent. But in object-oriented concept, you can do a communication. Let's say st1 wants to access the variable of st2. You can do that. Okay. New data and functions are added easily whenever necessary, follows bottom-up approach, inheritance, and the complexity can be reduced. So even if you want to change, make a change, small change, you can do it with minimal change as possible. That's called as. Okay, this is purely for your semester examination. They have always asked about procedural and object-oriented programming differences, and what are the specialties of object-oriented programming. So I will share the notes for this from somewhere if I get from the net. Make sure you look into this. Okay. And these are the basic concepts of object-oriented programming: objects, classes, data abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, dynamic binding, message passing. We are going to look at each and everything in our coming modules. Okay. I think let me just introduce you to classes. Okay. So assume that, let's say you have a bird. Now, what are the characteristics of a bird? The bird will have wings. The bird will have a beak. The bird will chirp. So these are the characteristics of the bird. Okay. And what all things the bird can do? It can fly. Sorry, the chirp will come into this. It can chirp, it can fly, it can walk, it can jump. All these things are what the bird can do. So if you have a bird, and if you want to define, or if you want to tell to somebody programmatically, these are what the bird does, then you can create a class called as bird and define the characteristics of the bird. So all the birds will fly except ostrich, will walk, at least jump, and chirp. Chirp means it makes sound. Okay. So if you create, so I can create a class called as bird, and I can say an object of bird is crow, or I could say lovebirds. It's an object of a bird, or I could say peacock, ostrich. So bird is a class, and peacock, ostrich, lovebirds, etc. are an object of the class, because all these birds will be able to fly, will be able to chirp, all have wings, all have legs. So all the characteristics are same, except that you might have a shorter wing, you might have a longer wing, you might have a shorter leg, you might have a longer leg. So the characteristic is same, but in a micro level it is different. But in overall thing it is same. Okay? That's called as an object. Okay. Another example, car. All cars have four wheels. All cars move. All cars will have a steering. All cars will have an engine. And so car is a class, and an object of car is, for example, Toyota car, sedan, or Hyundai Venue, Hyundai Creta, or you can say Benz, or Aston Martin, or Bugatti, whatever. So the car is a bigger picture, which is called as a class, and all the cars will have same characteristics. They are called as objects. Okay, but inside, so even though all the cars have wheels, the dimension of the wheel is different, right? So they are different, but the overall the characteristics are same. So I just gave an introduction to classes. So I'm not going to start with the classes now, and we will take some time. Okay, so I think we'll stop it here. It's already 12:24. Okay, fine. Okay.